MAC started as a store that sold other people's products. They offered them a space on the second floor away from brands like Chanel and Dior. They called the store Makeup Art Cosmetics Limited.
Russian Red was created for Madonna on the Blonde Ambition tour.
It sold so well, there was lines out the door, prompting them to hire doormen, Rupaul and Lady Bunny. If they did not succeed, the Franks would lose all rights to the MAC trademark in those Asian countries.
Reformulating the whole entire lip category is wicked work.
Yes.
You got rid of shades that were iconic.
They cannot afford to play with MAC.
We lost the nostalgic feeling.
You may not realize that you're judged by the way that you look. Today, you can brush your way to sheer beauty. Let me show you how.
My microphone is disgusting.
Mine has like nude lipstick all over it and white fuzz.
The pop filter, like styrofoam, is disgusting, girl.
I wonder if we could get these in colors.
I know, girl. I even want to get the little boxes that go over the end with the name of the pod on them.
I would love a little
branding,
pink one.
Marketing, diamonds. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. What do you think of me in this lip? This is not my... Why did I pick today?
That's giving... Oh my God. What was the thing that they said that they were like, well, you just haven't said it yet. I thought I looked great and you just haven't said anything.
You do. Yeah.
I know I really like this. This is one of my favorite reds to me because I love how this is the first blue-based red I think I ever fell in love with because of texture, formula, everything.
Yeah.
Because it's that matte lipstick, but it's not dry. It has like
yes.
There's dimension to it. It's not a flat matte lip, and I really love it.
I feel like this is as like dry as a matte lip could be before. It's not uncomfortable at all, but it's like this shit is gonna last. Like where I can feel it gripping. I would tell you what it is, but I'm not going to because that all will be revealed. Revealed. Redemption later on the episode. But I never wear reds like this. This is too light normally. Like I would go more blood.
Yeah, you always go deeper because at first I was even like, no, what is it? And you're right, with the eye makeup, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
What's on the lid? The K Beauty shadows?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's one of the ones that's not as chunky, so it's a little more
diamonds. It's very pretty.
Wealth. Yeah.
It's very pretty.
And I wanted to do a little bit more of a 90s situation where it was like kind of like a carved. I was gonna do all matte at first, but then I was like, let me just do a whisper of this little like shimmer on it. And it's more of this like really light champagne, almost taupey. Like was really, with the structure of the eye was a little bit more 90s I went for.
Yeah.
Because, segue, today we are talking about the rise and fall of MAC. So I wanted to do this for a little while, especially after the whole Studio Fix powder reformulation. And I feel like on this pod, we have talked about MAC's missteps quite a lot. And even whenever we've done kind of like videos like this on another brand, Fenty, maybe whatever, we kind of do it from the perspective of like consumers and the back end of it, of what we even notice as makeup artists, like having worked in it. But I kind of fell down a rabbit hole and ended up doing like so much research on MAC. We always talk about the brand identity and like how it feels now compared to how it used to feel. And I kind of wanted to be able to give not only us, but like you guys a more deeper understanding of what that brand identity was, which is funny because I feel like you're probably going to organically have known more of this than I did, but so much of this research like blew my mind, like of what things they did so early on that were so pivotal in that feeling and I feel like other people get from MAC.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what is on here, what you found versus what I already know.
Yes.
And why I feel the way I feel about MAC, that it's always going to be one of my like cherished brands.
Yes.
But that's why I feel like I'm so critical of the products that come out now because it just doesn't quite hit like they used to.
It's the Lady Gaga fame of makeup brands for us, like
Yeah.
the way that feeling felt. Faye Monster Born this way, that feeling, that edginess, that whatever, it's the same level of like what we love most, we critique the harshest.
Oh, completely.
Yeah. Are we like diving into being a real podcast with a laptop on? Like so many people have their fucking laptops open. Meanwhile, you and I only ever just have like a bottle of vodka between us, and we're like,
and a phone. Just what are you thinking?
She's shit. So, I feel like everyone always says. I also was reading that MAC like kind of has been around since 1984, but maybe I'm getting that date wrong. Ironically, the one piece of information I didn't put down because I didn't realize it was actually incorporated. Makeup Art Cosmetics was incorporated in 1981, almost like 3 years before it really even turned into
a makeup brand.
Not even a makeup brand. So it was co-founded by Frank Angelo and Frank Toscan. They were dating, gay. Frank Angelo was a hairdresser and Frank Toscan was a makeup artist. Frank Angelo, at 21 years old in 1969, opened a salon called the Hair Cutting Place. I should also say that they were from Toronto, Canada.
Yes.
So in only a year, he went from one salon to 37 salons across Canada. Now in his salons, the Hair Cutting Place pioneered in Toronto the walk-in structure, which created loyalty for his brand instead of the stylist, allowing him to compete with main competitors like Vidal Sassoon, who offered a by reservation system for the stylist. So even at 21 years old to say, like, because that's the crazy thing. It's like you and I are people that we always joke around like, I wouldn't have wanted to live in any other time, as scary as this one is, because we would have been killed. But I think like back in days like this, when we are just so living in late stage capitalism, market oversaturation, that like there's so few ideas that haven't been done. Like at this point, everything. So to think that at 21 years old in 1969, he was saying, wait, why am I doing reservations by stylist? Because if that stylist leaves, my customer base is going to leave with them.
Yeah.
And pioneered in Toronto the system of when you walk in, you get whatever stylist is available. Like that's just the kind of visionary at 21 years old.
Yeah,
how crazy is that? So in 1981, now fast forward, wanted to bring El Maquillage to Canada. Also noted that one of the main salons that they had in Toronto was in a very popular Canadian department store called Simpsons. So Simpsons, the popular department store, featured Angelo's salon, thought the colors from El Maquillage were too bold and out there to sit next to their luxury brands. So they offered them a space on the second floor away from brands like Chanel and Dior to sell El Maquillage and other professional brands. They called the store Makeup Art Cosmetics Limited. So this section in Simpsons was called Makeup Art Cosmetics Limited and was the first iteration of MAC as a store. It was unisex and targeted his friends, other makeup artists, photographers, and drag queens. So MAC, as we know it, started as a store that sold other people's products. And without El Maquillage and those targeted Instagram ads, we wouldn't have MAC.
That is, I did not know that. That is insane.
How
to
gaggy.
think of like MAC started off at like a Sephora.
Yes.
But without the private label.
Exactly.
They were just a vessel for these other brands.
Yes.
What brand?
Yep.
That is so weird.
How wild is that?
And the fact that they didn't want bold makeup
too gay.
near Miss Chanel and Miss Dior.
Yes.
That is so wild.
So they gave them like a little
it checks out.
section. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So they purposefully hired creative men and women to boost underrepresented groups of people, and specifically did not hire too many people that had experience working at makeup counters, but instead original artistic individuals with tattoos and wild makeup. This section in Simpsons, Makeup Art Cosmetics Limited, became famed in Toronto for carrying the widest foundation ranges in Canada that didn't make people look ashy, especially at the time, the formulas, because they were selling professional formulas, and specifically full coverage matte products for drag queens to more easily cover their beard, which was actually stated in a reason why they carried the products that they did. So the two, we'll call them the Franks, specifically targeted formulas for
That's
professionals
amazing.
and photographers. And because they had been in the hair scene for so long, they knew all of the people in hair and makeup and were catering specifically to artists and queer people. In 1982, so successful, they expanded into their own store. So they made Makeup Artists Cosmetics Limited its own space, which kind of became a hub in Toronto for just queer and artistic people. In 1984, El Maquillage ended up being too expensive to import and led them to becoming makeup manufacturers. This is when they started to create their own products, single eyeshadows, so on and so forth, and they were highly pigmented and matte, infused with vitamins to make them interesting to general consumers. After developing a shampoo for Gladys Knight, before they even did this, they realized how little there was on the market for women of color and purposely developed products for all skin colors and wanted to do what was not customary in makeup packaging at the time, and made it sleek, pretty black packaging that was gender neutral, specifically with that in mind, and sold products separately from each other, individual eyeshadows, allowing makeup artists and creatives to assemble their own collection rather than relying on pre-assembled palettes. This also allowed customers to experience makeup in a creative way, urging customers, which was very unorthodox at the time, to never rely on their colors. This is my...
I'm an autumn.
Literally, you know those people. And
yeah.
instead buying what made them happy. Well, there was even a deeper story about how the Frank Angelo, his sister's boyfriend, was a chemist and came to their like house for a holiday or whatever to meet her brother and family, and he was mixing a shampoo in his room, and the new boyfriend was like, what are you doing, yada yada yada. Long story short, he ended up, this girl, his sister's boyfriend, ended up introducing the Franks into like more serious cosmetics manufacturing, and from there had formulated a shampoo specifically for Gladys Knight, and in that process learned how little there was for women of color. So when they started their brand, just the vision right from the gate, and how risky to go, this is what our even just storefront was. It's for creatives, for queer people, for all skin types, women of color. So it's going to be bold, matte, and then individual shadows to build your own collection rather than being locked into things. Just insane to have that much foresight.
That vision of...
Yes.
And literally buy what makes you happy. Don't rely on the person at the counter saying, these are your colors. Don't stray away from these.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love that.
How crazy. So in 1985, they had their first product innovation, a highly pigmented, with no gloss or shine, a true matte Russian red, which is what I'm wearing today. Yep. I made Kevin bring his over. And you were saying that it's since been reformulated
into now the maximal matte formula that is in the bigger packaging. So you have the original one on.
Yes.
The newer one, I have one of the new ones on. The colors are just a little off.
Well, we know Miss Mac, Mary Mac, with her fucking color matching.
Yes, absolutely.
It's close enough.
Yeah.
And it's so, well, we'll get into that at the end, because that's really, when we get up to contemporary times, Russian red exploded because it was featured in Madonna's Vogue music video.
And
did
you know, I don't know if this is in there, but Russian red was created for Madonna on the Blonde Ambition tour because she wanted a budge-proof red that she said, I need it to withstand my tour, dancing around, doing everything. And they said, okay, we're going to create something for you. Created Russian red for her, that it was a matte, doesn't have the glossy finish and won't transfer. And it won't get all over like the mic and stuff. So they literally created Russian red for her Blonde Ambition tour.
See, I didn't know it was created for Madonna.
For her. And then she
wore it
in the late 80s, 90s, in the red lip renaissance of that time, it was this lipstick that became famous because of her, because of Madonna.
And Mama, then she must have wore it again, obviously wearing it in the Vogue music video.
Yes. It was her lipstick.
Which is what made it go global, of people inquiring about it. And you have no idea how much Russian red is responsible for other things that ended up happening. So starting their own store and creating their own actual line at this point, other facts that I thought were amazing, implemented high base salaries for their employees with no commission to encourage a better work environment. That doesn't exist anymore. That's why I didn't work at MAC, because it was commission. They had no, back in the OG days, they had no commission and high base salaries for the time. Were cruelty free from minute one. Day one, all plastic in their products was recyclable right from the get as well. Created the Back to MAC program. Like, these men, what other stories do you hear that you go, that's someone right from the gate, like all the good things they did? Nowadays, we live in a time when
you have to be course corrected into doing these things, where they were doing it from the first day they opened their doors.
Exactly.
So
that's the world we live in now, where it's like, let me see what I can get away with. And
until
if I'm caught, then I'll do the right thing. From minute, they didn't even know if they were going to go bankrupt. Yeah. And they did all this.
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing.
Wild. Now, fast forwarding to 1987 is when they really began working with AIDS relief efforts, started MAC's legacy with philanthropy. God, that word. So we'll kind of get back to that when we get to the Viva Glam days. But in 1988, Madonna does an interview admitting she wore Russian red, which several department stores got in touch to sell MAC in America. Out of all of the locations that they were offered, the Franks only accepted one in Henry Bendel in New York City, which no longer exists. It sold so well, there was lines out the door, prompting them to hire doormen, Rupaul and Lady Bunny. In full drag, had them outside Henry Bendel's. As they started to expand into other stores like Nordstrom, so now we're getting into the early 90s, who started to fuck around, but Miss Nordstrom started firing men for wearing makeup and being too extravagant. And MAC regularly fought Nordstrom and threatened to pull MAC from the store. So much so, got to the point that they were like, no, this is how our employees can look. They can have tattoos, piercings, crazy makeup, so on and so forth. When Nordstrom pushed back, they said, we will not hesitate to pull MAC out of every single Nordstrom. They finally gave in because at the time, everything was selling so well. And they made Nordstrom write into their code of conduct that like this would never be a problem, so that if, you know, it would never was going to be brought up the ladder, let's say some poor me and you got fired from a Nordstrom, it could be referenced back into the Nordstrom code of conduct that no, MAC employees are allowed to do XYZ. They made them do that to keep it in the store.
Wow.
These men, like doing this made me fall in love with them. How insane.
Yeah, I'm only going to wear MAC now.
And
I mean, like, I always have been a MAC fan.
Yes.
Am I a Nicki fan? Am I a Nicki fan? I have always been a fan, but this is like, because I knew kind of the backstory with them, but this is even further pushing me where I'm like, I'm going to go get a job at MAC.
Girl, because this is what I meant about like how I wanted it. And when I ended up doing all this research, I really wanted to share this because I think it articulates that feeling we definitely always have had, but other people have around MAC, that we'll kind of analyze what that feels like now, but it really just is giving the history to it, which is just so reaffirming and fascinating. Are you enjoying Beautiful and Bothered? Not feeling so fresh? You should subscribe to the Beyond Bothered Patreon, where we'll freshen you right up. We will. We'll freshen your makeup up. If you guys like Beautiful and Bothered, whether you've been a fan since the beginning or you're new here, make sure to check out the Beyond Bothered Patreon. It's like a whole nother world over there where you guys get after shows every single Wednesday of the month, where we talk about everything from Overflow from here. We open PR in real time. We talk about our first kiss.
We talk about everything that doesn't make it into the episodes that sometimes we want to talk about, but for time's sake, we can't.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about, when we get heated about our favorite TV shows that we're watching at the moment.
And let's just say maybe the tea's a little spicier every now and again because we don't have to worry about the people we're talking shit about watching it. So there's that. So there's after shows every single Wednesday. And then the last Wednesday of the month is a full bonus episode. So full length bonus episode. And then with the beauty tier, you guys get all of the podcast stuff plus beauty videos every single week with, at the end of the month, a full beauty tutorial, like over 2 hours, that is anything from us doing new makeup to answering your questions about skincare and makeup and hair care in real time. It's just so beyond worth it over there.
Beyond worth it.
Beyond worth it. If you head over there right now, you will have enough content to last you probably 6 months.
All exclusive content. So this content gets posted nowhere else. This is just for you when you go into those tiers. So enjoy it.
So check out the link in the description box to head over to the Beyond Bothered Patreon and start having some fun, girl. Ooh. Fast forward to 1992. So now keep in mind, all of this time, 1992, this is the first time they hired a marketing officer. And up until this point, MAC did no advertising whatsoever. All of this so far, this success up to 1992 was just all of word of mouth and Madonna's trickle effect and the whole nine.
My God, that is amazing.
So now in 1992 was the first time they ever hired a marketing officer, and the first product and endeavor that the marketing officer undertook was the launch of, drumroll, Studio Fix Powder. Studio Fix Powder was introduced and caught on so quickly because of the formulation. It worked with so many undertones and skin tones for a more truer match that was difficult to find in other products on the market. And Studio Fix really didn't explode in 1992, but it was, hero product. Cut to now, look at the revolt all of these years later. Look what just happened with it being reformulated. And then in 1992, we have the introduction of Viva Glam. And keep in mind, a multi-million-dollar business, MAC never advertised. Viva Glam combined Russian Red with their philanthropic efforts, donating 100% of the proceeds to fight the stigma surrounding AIDS. Think about the risk of this. Let's take our best-selling product and align it with 100% of the proceeds from this go to AIDS. And to donate 100% of the proceeds, they obviously picked up every cost, the manufacturing cost, distribution, the whole 9 yards, and actively lost money on every single sale of Russian Red. However, in late 1992, sales of Russian Red lipstick, which were donated to AIDS organizations, totaled over $100,000. In less than a year. So that was obviously the sales of it, but that was all donated to the AIDS organizations. Between 1992 and 1995, they promoted Viva Glam with a Canadian fundraising tour, became the lead sponsor of the Fashion Cares benefit in Toronto, and created their own AIDS charity, the MAC AIDS Fund. It wasn't until 1992 that they produced their first ever ad campaign for Viva Glam with the one and only Rupaul. And all of the promotion, this campaign, the famous campaign with Rupaul, was paid for with the Franks' personal money and not MAC, the company. They paid for it out of their own money. Frank Tolskin was quoted saying, "Rupaul's glamour and extraordinary appearance and performances made him a natural," and there is quotes around natural, "choice for MAC," who said at the time that he had long considered using a man to represent MAC. "We couldn't find anyone who wore more makeup and had as much fun doing it. I've always thought it would be impossible to put a face to MAC because of what we stand for. All sexes, all races, all ages. But RuPaul is male, he's female, and he's ageless. He fits the bill." You talk about not shying away from anything. The first face of our company
is a drag queen.
Is RuPaul. In a campaign, not only for the brand, becoming the first face of the brand, but for a specific campaign that benefits AIDS in 1995.
And I actually didn't know that in the first Viva Glam campaign that it was Russian Red. I had no idea that it was Russian Red. I thought they created a new shade for that campaign, but using what put you on the map as, what a vehicle to drive all those sales and everybody. And I'm sure there was people that didn't buy it for that reason.
Yes.
But the fact that it was such a coveted product, and what a smart move to do that at that time. That is just,
how wild is it?
It's amazing.
Brave. Everything they've done, but to take your best-selling product.
That's such a risk to take, and it clearly paid off all these years later.
Literally.
That is amazing.
However, in 1995, another problem arose. While for a long time, MAC had been the only professional makeup available to the public in such an accessible way, other competitors began popping up. What was that audio that was trending during the election of Dance Moms, where they were like, I was enjoying myself, and all of a sudden, this grating voice is behind me. Like, that's what I'm like hearing in my head.
Wait, competitors?
Other competitors began popping up, like NARS, Trish McEvoy, and Bobbi Brown. Also, I always thought that when we worked at Sephora, but Miss Similar, Packaging, Appearance.
NARS?
Bobbi Brown, I don't know as much about Trish McEvoy, to MAC.
Oh, yeah.
Because MAC did it first. So now you have, here's this makeup artist and this hairstylist came out with a brand. Me, Mr. Francois, NARS, and Bobbi Brown.
Well, I'm a photographer, and
that's
Mr. Francois NARS
Yeah.
was a photographer, and I have his book at home, and you're a very talented photographer and makeup artist.
But even in the brand identity,
it's very MAC coded,
incredibly similar to MAC.
But yeah, and Bobbi, I never clocked that how similar.
It's the same thing with a different font.
Packaging, yeah. So many of like
especially
the different
back in the day, the all black,
wow, yeah,
and it was the same kind of concept of with NARS, Bobbi Brown, and Trish McEvoy that it was professional cosmetics.
And there's another one later on down the line that I feel like was a direct inspiration of MAC as well, that I don't know if it's going to get there, but I think Makeup Forever.
Oh, absolutely, girl. And
the pro makeup.
Yes. And it's kind of funny because for me, I always felt like, gun to my head, feel like NARS out of those. And again, I've never really been that familiar with Trish McEvoy. I know people love it, but NARS was always, I could see it being professional quality. It really was something back in the day that a lot of artists, my whole kit, like there was a lot of NARS in it, the whole 9 yards, where I always felt like Bobbi Brown, and I don't even want to say that Bobbi Brown wasn't necessarily professional grade cosmetics, but I think it has so much to do with Bobbi Brown's philosophy on makeup.
Yes.
Miss woo-woo tinted fucking, like
tinted everything.
She's always been very...
You want to hear something real quick? My sister-in-law, her mom told me a story that they were at years and years and years ago. She got her makeup done at, I think, Neiman Marcus or Bloomingdale's. Bobbi Brown did it. And it was like when the Bobbi Brown did it. And then one of her assistants was this guy that was like doing her daughter's makeup.
Yes.
The guy that was doing the daughter's makeup, was like very fresh and clean because that was Bobbi's
so fresh and clean.
Bobbi's philosophy, less the better.
No personality.
And then, but like she wanted more makeup on. So I think there was something where like Bobbi was like doing it at first and then she had someone else kind of like take over. And then Bobbi came back at the end and she goes, oh, absolutely not. She goes, she has way too much makeup on, but she wanted, she was going out that night. She wanted to wear makeup, where I feel like Bobbi Brown, the brand itself was always more of a consumer based. I'm not a pro artist. It needed to be more attainable.
She was the capitalist funnel. That's how
NARS
I felt.
was more consumer and pro.
Yes.
And it was the pro consumer.
And NARS didn't
you know
dictate,
what I'm saying?
At least in my knowledge, NARS didn't dictate how the customer should wear their makeup. And that was always my aggravation with certain makeup artist brands, was they imposed their beliefs on how makeup should be worn onto the aesthetic of the brand, where look at the exact, the antithesis of that is MAC saying, don't tell me what works for you or don't works for you. Wear and buy and use whatever makes you happy. Yeah. And that you hit the nail on the head. Bobbi Brown was always, this is how I think people should wear makeup. And if you don't wear it that way, it's bad. That's what I never liked about Bobbi Brown.
It's like the old school makeup ads that we went through, that it was like, don't wear
blush.
A whore? Don't wear blush of this color.
Yeah, expect to get married at 21. Yeah, don't wear too much rouge.
But that's what it was. Bobbi was, and I remember reading, there was an excerpt from
the school principal.
Do you remember? Okay, because the
Bobbi Brown book?
The Bobbi Brown book. And then even when there was...
How did I not do that this whole time?
I don't know. Because even when there was like a Bobbi Brown Academy in... Montclair, New Jersey.
Yes.
there was somebody that we knew when we were back in our Sephora days worked for Bobby.
Yeah.
I think the account executive. And even the way that they were told to wear makeup in store to present it to us and how we were trained.
Yes.
Was so, I was like, blink twice if you're in danger, because she was so kind-hearted. But then the way she was selling this makeup, I was
loved
like,
her.
And I was like, do you believe what you're saying? Because I'm like,
yes,
you are so passionate about makeup in general, but it was the way that she talked about doing makeup was so bizarre to me. And then the tune switched when Miss Bobby sold the company, and I felt like the philosophy kind of changed. And then it was more of like a choose your own adventure, as makeup should be.
But then it was which speaks volumes to where Bobbi Brown is. It was choose your own adventure with vanilla ice cream.
Oh, yeah, well,
so what
18 shades of vanilla.
What adventure?
Yeah,
like,
because
there was the problem.
There was even the most daring
50 Shades of Beige.
The most daring product was still so safe.
Yes.
So it was never
that's where I feel like the bottom fell out of Bobbi Brown was when she left and stopped pushing that, which also it aggravates me so much, because I feel like that, and especially you and I working in the retail space, and we've run the gamut. We've done not only Sephora, but freelancing for brands, going to department stores, department store culture, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom's, Lord & Taylor, rest in peace, Macy's, so on and so forth. Today, we are undoing so much of the stigma and the brainwashing that older customers were raised with of this is how one wears makeup. If you're going to buy these products, this is how.
Don't stray away from what I'm telling you.
Yes.
And that's what it was bothering me.
We're fighting for that creativity back.
Even when we were like starting at Sephora, I remember people coming in, tell me what to do. And I was like, and I would look at them and I'm like, but what do you want to do? Mm-hmm. I'm like, why do you? And I was like, I understand that you need to be guided, but they're like, you have to tell me. I don't want to do it wrong. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the beauty of makeup, is that it comes off and you can do whatever you feel like looks great on you.
Yes.
And I was always like, are you all right?
Absolutely.
Like, are you okay? But it was that horrible, brainwashing of, if you do these things, you are not going to look good. Don't you dare.
Yes.
You can't wear a red lip unless you're wearing a black dress.
Exactly.
It was very just strange. It was weird energy.
We don't wear mauve at dinner time. Like, it was very these rules. And that to me was Bobbi Brown through and through. It was all of these rules and philosophies that permeated,
outdated.
And Mama, listen, and Bobbi Brown is very talented, very accomplished. She's a legend in the cosmetics industry. You ain't Kevin Aquan, and he wasn't telling people how to wear their makeup. So that's where it always came across where I was like, girl, like, it was a little like MLM-y, where it had that pushed
Let me
narrative.
draw you in so you buy all this, but don't you dare come back to me.
And it was almost like, exactly, it was a fear-based strategy of this is how it is applied, because how does that lend itself in business? If my products are the only one that gives you the result of this unnecessary regimen I'm telling you to do, you're only ever going to buy Bobbi Brown again.
Yeah.
And that's why it was slimy to me. It wasn't MAC going, buy this full coverage foundation or buy this crazy color that maybe you can get that color somewhere else. There wasn't a MAC way to apply that red eyeshadow that you only could buy the MAC red, refill it with MAC red. That's where Bobbi Brown was shady to me, where it was always, you need our products, MLM-y. Our products are the only ones that do how I'm telling you.
Our products love you. You better love them.
Girl, it was very
Hey, girl boss.
Girl. Hello, beautiful and bothered listeners. This is Johnny with a quick message. Kevin and I just want to let you know how much we have been loving this little meet and greet tour we've been doing, and we wanted to let you know about an upcoming date. Mark your calendars and come and see us at the MAC store at the Willowbrook Mall in Wayne, New Jersey on Saturday, June 7th. We will be there from 12 to 2 p.m. taking photos and honestly probably not be able to control our fervent need to buy MAC cosmetics that we do not need. These meet and greets have been so incredible for us to meet you and get to know you and finally put a face to all of our amazing, beautiful and bothered audience. We hope to see you there at the freestanding MAC store at the Willowbrook Mall in Wayne, New Jersey from 12 to 2 p.m. on Saturday, June 7th. Okay, so,
yes.
However, in 1995, these brands began gaining the competitive edge as they were smaller, not tied to a loss-making product, Viva Glam. Think about MAC's biggest product was not making them any money, so they were more able to respond to new customer demands. Now, Mamacita, we are entering chapter 3 where shit gets nom. Okay, MAC was facing the Asian market becoming riddled with counterfeit products. With competition ramping up in the US and the Asian markets getting flooded with counterfeits, it was clear MAC would need funds to fight this, but couldn't afford to put their funds in the Asian market due to the sheer size of counterfeiters in Asia. They had not yet entered the Asian market and were given, quote, only 1 year by various levels of government to set up MAC legally in Asia. If they did not succeed, the Franks would lose all rights to the MAC trademark in those Asian countries.
Oh, so then the counterfeits were legal?
Yes.
Oh my
Someone
God.
else could start MAC in Asia. They would lose the copyright to MAC in the Asian market.
Oh my God.
And they only had a year to do it after it started popping up and spreading like wildfire.
Wow.
So they were at risk of losing their business if any copycats in Asia got big enough or new competitors back home in America got big enough to take over while they were focused on the Asian market. So they were kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
They needed to deal with Asia, but if they went over there, not focusing on the US, and one of these competitors could have blown up. But if they didn't focus on Asia and battled NARS, Bobby Brown, Trish McEvoy, this Asian market would have blown up and they would have lost the MAC trademark.
Yeah, where somebody else could, like you said, start MAC Cosmetics and make all the money.
Exactly.
Wow. Oh my God.
So, dun, dun, dun. Who entered the room? Miss Estee Lauder.
Wow.
So this is where they turned to Estee Lauder.
MAC Franks turned
to
Estee Lauder.
They had, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was like in 1989, Estee Lauder approached MAC back then about going into business together, and they didn't, obviously. So they had a relationship, and I actually pulled from the Viva Glam book. So, quote, the Franks and Leonard Lauder had an immediate connection and an excellent professional and personal working relationship right from the start. Estee Lauder had operated in Asia for years. Its distribution network could start shipping MAC overseas almost immediately, and MAC clearly needed Estee Lauder to help them get MAC legally into the Asian market. Lauder responded to the Franks' call with an offer, a partnership between Estee Lauder and the Canadian company. The Franks agreed this was the best solution, and in December of 1994, the Estee Lauder company bought 51% of MAC for $38 million. MAC was Lauder's first acquisition of a competitor. Take all that in. And how crazy that they really needed Estee Lauder. Like, MAC honestly was kind of like my bitchy protect MAC theory or feeling now. I was like going like, holy fuck, like they were kind of fucked. Like, they were either going to lose the market here altogether or lose the Asian market. And especially, I'm sure Estee Lauder at the time probably was not at all what we know them to be today, because MAC was their first acquisition. So they had no reputation as a parent company that we know them.
Well,
now,
and I feel like even at the time, Estee Lauder was big.
Oh yeah,
and Estee Lauder was the beast in the best way that it was, because they were so successful.
Yeah.
So to even acquire another brand, I think that speaks volumes to even like want to help another brand and be like, come under my umbrella, and I'll help you. But also, Estee's not stupid.
Yes.
They saw how successful this other thing was, and we want a piece of that.
Yes. And I find it also very interesting. So it's 51% of the company. Mm-hmm. I own 51% of this company. Thank you. For $38 million US dollars. Good for the Franks. Now you figure this was 1994. Viva Glam was 95. At this time, Estee Lauder pretty much kept MAC the same. They didn't touch the brand identity, the branding, even anything related to the MAC AIDS fund. They understood MAC had a very unique value proposition and didn't want to change that. However, anticipating backlash from the sale, they promoted that it was simply a partnership and didn't reveal the true nature of the deal. It was giving, we're ashamed of our gay son. I also kind of got the impression that the Franks weren't mad about that because I think they really also didn't want their customer base, their loyals, to know that they
just
took
sold
Big Papa's money either. Because I think at the time, think about how much this brand was made and created on the backs of minorities and queerdos. Can be like that the artistic community, that I think they were even a little afraid to say we've
and make
been
people
bought
like,
by Estee Lauder.
Yeah, that things might change.
Yes. They both kind of just hush
on the DL.
Literally, yeah. DL looking for bright colored T-girl. Yeah. Literally. Bitch.
Oh my God. Ugh.
Yeah. Now, throughout the 90s, Estee Lauder began acquiring more and more companies, and by 1998, owned 100% of MAC. By 1998.
Wow.
Yes. And in 1998, unfortunately, Frank Angelo died. Oh, I'm sorry. He passed away in 1997. And when Frank Angelo passed away, Frank Toscan, his partner, officially left the company. Because I don't think he wanted to do it without his husband, not legally, but yeah, he didn't want to do it without him. So,
oh my God.
And that was in 97. And then by 98 is when Estee Lauder owned 100% of MAC. Now, throughout the 2000s, under Estee Lauder, MAC expanded exponentially, but very carefully, greatly across Asia and Europe, continuing to promote Viva Glam in queer spaces, like Drag Race Season 1. They were the main sponsor, did the whole challenge, 9 yards. Sales grew exponentially, but the brand identity, for the most part, largely remained the same. We are now at the fall of MAC section, if you will. The problem today, really, is that MAC's style of makeup really isn't in style at the moment, but under a large parent company, it is up to the parent company to perform a balancing act to retain the integrity of each brand they own. We're doing a little BCG business graph here to demonstrate. So, in a BCG graph, we have on the bottom market share, and on the side, the y-axis, market growth. So we have cash cow is the dollar sign.
Okay.
Star, a star brand, obviously the star. Then we have in trouble. And then we have questioning. A star product has everything. It has market growth and market share.
Yeah.
Where cash cow has market share, is making money, but not by a lot of people.
Okay.
So where Star has market growth, is popular and profitable. Cash cow is profitable but not popular. Then obviously the red is neither. And then question means it's getting popular, but it's not necessarily making a lot of money at the moment. Okay. So where you have, for Estee Lauder, you have certain brands like The Ordinary, Le Labo, Erin, and Kilian are their star brands, are popular, and they make them a lot of money. To the next slide. Then cash cow brands for Estee Lauder, MAC, La Mer, Jo Malone, Tom Ford Beauty, Clinique, and Estee Lauder. So tell me this isn't to you. I'm going to believe that, or we're going to...
I am...
Girl! I was literally just like, nom, nom, nom. So even think about that.
Right.
So think about now in the cash cow section, it makes Estee Lauder money. It is a cash cow, but it is not popular.
That's amazing.
Because think about the brand... Tom Ford Beauty is just the fucking price, but... Think about the
Clinique
loyalty
and Estee Lauder, the loyalty with those
of that brand, where it's loyal. It's the indie artist. They're making money, but they're just not
They don't
popular.
have the widespread popularity.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And I do feel like what they once were is not what they are now. So I feel like Estee and Clinique were once star brands.
Yes.
And then dropped to cash cow.
Absolutely. So all of these 4 quadrants matter to how a parent company balances the brands they have. The timeline of this balancing act is so important because it allows the brands to reinvent themselves when appropriate, opposed to being forced to change with trend and ruining the individual brand identity. Star and cash cow brands are so important for a parent company like Estee Lauder to be able to balance their shitty and questionable brands, to give them time to find their footing. Now, the problem for Estee Lauder is in the 2010s, Miss Lauder was very interested in gobbling up hype brands like Bobbi Brown, Origins, Smashbox, Too Faced, Dr. Jart, Glam Glow. They were so, and this was me and you working at Sephora together through the 2010s. Lauder was salivate every day. We felt like another brand was bought by Estee Lauder, gobbling up the popular brands.
It was either Estee Lauder, Shiseido, or
L'Oreal. Yep.
It was always every single day we walked in, they were like, oh, the AUs will come in. We were just acquired. I'm losing my job. I'm getting realigned. My territory is getting realigned. I have 6 brands now. I'm like,
literally, girl. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and they were so during that, and I really feel like it was that YouTube boom, that social, during the social media boom of beauty.
Yeah.
Estee Lauder was salivating to buy up all these brands.
Oh, yeah.
As I said, during the 2010s, gobbling up all these hype brands, they seemed promising, but where do we think we are now today? All of those brands that they gobbled up during the very first social media boom of cosmetics that were growing and not necessarily making the money, now just died in popularity.
Completely.
And that boom went away. The Glam Glow, let me put glitter embedded in my skin to puss out confetti.
Yeah.
All of the Smashbox, we talk about it all the time, rest in peace, Too Faced, Bobbi Brown, have lost their popularity and aren't making any money.
And I gotta say something.
Yeah.
For Estee Lauder as a company, as much as we always like to say that people like to blame Estee Lauder for ruining these brands.
Yeah.
But I think it's the overconsumption of the beauty industry that we are so turn and burn. That didn't work. Oh, 6 other people just released a similar product. I'll go over there.
Yep. And
because
I think they acquired these loyalty too fast.
And I got to give them Estee Lauder a little bit of grace because the brands like Bobbi Brown, Too Faced, Smashbox, and Glam Glow specifically, those brands I feel like were hot and they were steady and good for Estee Lauder to say, have their finger on the pulse of the beauty community, saying these brands seem like they have longevity like MAC.
Yep.
And they have a client base where like Smashbox, the primers and everything like that.
Yes.
They saw potential, but I don't think that they could foresee the beauty industry.
Much it was going to level out.
It was going to get dominated.
I know.
Just years later by like the Benefits and the Dior and all of the other like fashion house brands.
Celebrity brands.
Oh my God.
Exactly. And to a degree, it's like, I do say like, Mamacita, what goes up must come down. Because even when it was like, we were in our prime during that boom. And it even felt like this can't last forever in a way. But I guess, I don't know, maybe we wouldn't have said that at the time. We just thought it was going to get bigger and bigger. But
I did. I thought it was just going to keep on going and going and going and just, where is this going to go?
Yeah.
But then it was like a weird looming feeling of when brands started to get when we started to watch people lose their jobs.
Absolutely.
When I saw account executives stop coming in and then I saw them with a different brand, they're like, oh, they laid us all off. I was like, oh, okay.
And look how much maybe even exactly the stigma, even for us, of Estee Lauder acquiring these brands put a different taste in our mouth. Hence why Estee Lauder and MAC concealed it back in the day.
Oh, completely.
Because remember how we felt every day we found out there was a new brand being bought. And
I was like, oh, well, say goodbye to them.
Exactly.
Because we were blaming Estee Lauder.
Absolutely. So today, there's no balance. All of those brands that they acquired, they were all making sales, and now they all came down together. And while MAC is a cash cow brand, they don't have as many star brands as they once did. Hence, sales being down with lower stock prices, reducing staff, etc. What we talked about on a recent episode of Estee Lauder talking about cutting staff and slashing and the whole 9 yards because they're hurting. So this is where it gets even the finale so fascinating. The reason MAC looks like it's in a fall is because they're actually in a tactile low, meaning they are waiting for more creative makeup to come back in fashion. So they're leaving it in the cash cow category because that balance I was explaining of your star and cash cow brands are there as your security to play with the other two columns. They cannot afford to play with MAC. They can't move MAC to the question mark category to, as I was saying before, this balance to be able to reinvent a brand when they want purposefully rather than out of panic. They can't afford to touch MAC, do anything differently. So they are leaving her up on the dusty shelf as the cash cow that she is, riding the wheels off of the high profitability from the niche group that still loves it and paying the bills for their group of Miss Flop-Tinas and also their lack of star brands, which are really bringing in the buku bucks. So it feels from a business standpoint, obviously we could talk about it on a philosophical standpoint, but that's why it feels like they are in a low, which this also puts so much into perspective for me, where we always said it just felt like they were fucking on simmer. On a low simmer. They weren't making any moves. And actually, real quick, I'll finish. I have one more stat and then we're to our post or our contemporary conversation. So, and they've had really trouble adapting. Their social media is horrendous and they never really align with influencers, which I don't mind, but it goes beyond that. They have their social media doesn't articulate their showing the essence and feel of what MAC is. So much so that a study was done by the University of Minnesota in 2002 discovered that 84% of respondents were familiar with MAC, 77 would consider buying MAC, 68 had bought MAC. Out of that 68 that had bought it, in the factors of purchase, in quality, it was given a 72.7%, while the brand desirability was given 42.4%. So 72 for quality and only a 42 out of 100% of MAC buyers in this group, it was given a 42% in desirability. Wow. So, which speaks to why they are profitable, but not popular.
That is so fascinating. That's where I almost question the choices that have been made in this past year.
And and I feel like your wheels are turning in the exact same way mine were, where I said to myself, okay, so here we kind of have more evidence that Estee Lauder really is leaving MAC up on that dusty shelf. Kimmy Schmidt making her do the crank in the bunker to generate the profit, to do the wheels. But because of all these flop brands that they acquired in 2010, they cannot afford to take a risk with any of their cash cow brands. That being said, you're saying it makes a lot of money, enough money, but isn't popular. That really speaks to the niche minority that is still buying MAC, that still loves MAC.
Yeah.
So now to what I think we're just going to say, let's get rid of, reformulate the cult classic products that the niche audience is continuing to buy and loves.
What the brand was built on. So, and now I'm even just thinking about this right now, that we're blaming Estee Lauder, right? But maybe there's people higher up at MAC where Estee Lauder, MAC, let's say the MAC people at the top are still saying, change it. Do let's reinvent the wheel here.
Yep.
people at Estee Lauder are banking on this making money, but when they are now collaborating and hearing that one of their, because at the end of the day, MAC has their own employees, their own CEO, their own everything, right? Like, they all have their own operating system, if you will. I wonder how much of it I'm blaming Estee Lauder.
I think a lot of it is coming from MAC.
I think a lot of it is too, because why would Estee Lauder as a whole want to change and potentially upset their client base?
Yes.
Reformulating lipsticks and the powder. Let's just take those two.
Yes.
Reformulating the whole entire lip category is wicked work.
Yes.
You got rid of shades that were iconic. And MAC has always done that.
Yes.
MAC has always turned and burned lip products, got rid of staples for people.
Yes.
The flesh pot of it all.
I know.
So I wonder how much of it, because now my mindset is totally changing after all of this. I think it is more so the people at MAC rather than Estee Lauder. It's not the Estee Lauder saying change these formulas and abide by this. I think it's MAC saying we need to refresh our Rolodex of products.
Yes.
And that's kind of what shook my brain a little bit during this whole thing, that now I'm even rethinking, oh my God, it's probably the call's coming from within.
Yes. I don't think, and who's even to say if MAC fully really understands where their position even is within Estee Lauder to this degree? Because I'm also going to say it. We've met many of people that work for these brands, yada, yada. 99% of them are so sweet and amazing. But a lot of the time, there's blindness to how we're received by the public, where our position is. Who knows if the MAC team, all Estee Lauder employees, they're signing their Mr. Lauder signing the paycheck, but who knows if the MAC corporate team really understands that Estee Lauder is kind of leaving them on this, because from Estee Lauder's perspective, that's kind of brilliant to go, when colorful makeup comes back in style, we have this sitting duck that then, boom. But MAC itself, it is probably sitting there not really understanding that and going, okay, but who are we making our money from? Why are we a cash cow for Estee Lauder? It's because of XYZ. And to your point, they can't be. They can't understand that if they're going to lay their head on the pillow and go, in the past 2 years alone, let's completely change our entire line of lipsticks. Let's bring back Flesh Pot 60 times clunkily in the wrong color. Let's discontinue other products that everyone loves. Let's reformulate Studio Fix powder. Then trying to appeal to the market growth and go, clean girl lip glosses with no fucking pigment. Let's do the safe shit. Let's not be artistic anymore. Like I saw a girl on TikTok swatching the new, whatever the fuck those were called, those new lip glosses we did on Purchase or Pass, Air, whatever.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. And everyone she was putting on, she was like, where's the beef? Where's the pigment?
Because MAC was known for
and she compared it to the lip glosses. You probably know.
The lip glass.
The lip glass. And she was like, this is what I think of when I put on MAC. Market share. The loyalty.
And that's where I feel like
they're trying to be an every woman.
But they, oh my God, because they were so accessible and attainable, but they took fan favorites, like just for the powder. Let alone the lipsticks that, my God, that's where you started and you ruined it. And it's like, and it's fine and dandy that we want to update the formula, but it was, what hurt me the most was the packaging. Yep. The packaging is what hurt me the most because going from sleek and beautiful to now large, the iconic. I remember watching Charmed, and in a lot of TV shows, they would always have MAC lipsticks displayed on the counter.
Yes.
And I remember in one scene, Rose McGowan's character was applying her MAC lipstick and put it on the counter.
Imagine how tired we are.
Literally.
Yeah.
And she had it on the counter, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Because even if I covered this and you saw the bullet, you knew what it was from that sparkly packaging.
Yes.
Like that little bit of something. And now to go to this reimagined bullet that is so much bigger, but it's like this feels like the counterfeit.
Absolutely. Yes, girl.
It doesn't, there's something about this original packaging. We lost the nostalgic feeling. So when I would go to MAC, I would be like, I have Russian red at home, but give me another one.
Yes.
And I would always do that. That's why I had doubles and triples of everything.
I know.
And then now just the feeling I get when I go to MAC, I'm still nostalgic. But then I'm like, every time I turn around, I'm like, oh, that's
gone.
Different. The packaging is different.
They're gutting the condemned building.
And then they just said, but here it is again.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like, no.
And a little different, and a little wonky, and a little off.
Because I'm like, every day when I look at my powder, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the new one. And then when I open up my original Studio Fix powder, I'm like,
which we're living in a time now more than ever, which to your point, everything you just said speaks to the nostalgia and speaks to this, to the smaller group of people loving it as much as they still do. And we're living in a Venn diagram starting to overlap where we're living in a time for nostalgia, where if we leaned into the nostalgia, what you and I have talked about in 79 episodes, doing a back to the 90s collection with all of the original correct colors that Linda Evangelista and all the supermodels wore in the 90s, and coming out with a collection of contemporary people, now we're trying to be Miss Mass Appeal, which is alienating the only reason you are a cash cow. You are alienating the people that love Studio Fix powder, which explains the blowback from it. Because people swore by that, so much so that they're making you a cash cow brand for Lauder, and you're getting rid of those products. Like I mentioned before, I love that Estee Lauder never has aligned themselves with influencers the way other brands have, really hardcore, but we're doing the newest campaign, which was like controversial online very recently, called the Born Famous campaign, where it was like leaning into Nepo babies, where it was like Lisa Rinna MAC, and her daughter for MAC.
For the new glosses.
For those glosses. Because we want Bella Hadid and Yolanda Foster to be in the Franks are rolling over in their grave. Rolling over, that you are now, because now we're dipping our toe into Miss Influencery, vapid marketing, and getting rid of our cult classics to come out with sheer drugstore lip glosses, when not doing that, those products, not touching those products, are the only reason you're even keeping the lights on. So it has to be coming from that.
And the part that this is where I feel like the nail in the coffin is for me. Do you remember the collection of lipsticks that came out right before they reformulated and repackaged?
Yes.
The bringbacks. The 8 colors that were so popular from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s.
I know.
That were discontinued. Flesh Pot. That was the first time we saw it come back.
Yep.
Bubbles, everything, every iconic color that was ever, really taken from us.
Yep.
So we do that. We bring back Cool Spice because everyone wanted the 90s version of Cool Spice, or Spice rather. Okay. So I was like, oh, we're going in the right direction.
Yes.
And then now we're regressing.
Yeah.
We just took 10 steps forward.
Yes.
And now we're taking 20 back.
Absolutely.
They were so close. When I saw that bring back collection, I was like, oh my God, I actually got excited like I used to.
You and I joked around. We were like, they're listening, because like a month before that, we talked all about making a back to MAC collection and that 90s philosophy.
And then, don't even get in the back to MAC, the recycling program is bring it back in, but no more free lipstick, no more free eyeshadow. The incentive is gone.
Yep.
But still come recycle.
Yep.
And that's where I feel like they're losing what was so special about MAC that made people loyal.
Yes.
So I really hope, and on that note, come to our meet and greet at MAC.
Absolutely, girl. Well, and that's the thing, girl. But it's like, why not? I don't understand how they're not putting 2 and 2 together, that the cult classic fans are they're the ones making MAC a cash cow for Lauder. So, and I get that you can't take a risk with MAC because of the brand positioning within Estee Lauder, and you're waiting for colorful makeup and bold makeup that aesthetic to come back in and become popular again. But I think it's safe to say the one risk you can take is using MAC as a way to make that colorful makeup
Why
fun
can't
again.
they be the ones to drive the trend?
Do you know
like
why?
they used to.
You know why? Because and this is the problem with parent companies owning this much, this is why monopolies are bad, people. Let's pretend MAC was its own entity. Okay, we'll use MAC to make colorful makeup popular again, because MAC is having a problem with market growth, so you're not going to alienate new customers because it doesn't have any new customers. It's a cash cow because of the loyalty. What do your loyal people want? You to lean into the color, lean into the fun, lean into the identity. So doing that would not only make them more fervent and more loyal, but it may bring back a colorful trend in makeup. Now back to reality. Why don't they want that to happen? Because it's going to hurt all their other basic bitch brands. If MAC does that and brings color, and Lauder, and this is where Mr. Lauder is going to step in and put his foot on MAC's neck and go, no. Don't make colorful makeup come back too much, because if MAC moves to the bitch, even look at the brands in the star category. No personality.
Two fragrance brands. And just skincare and
literally
Erin Beauty. I don't even know her. Who is she? Sorry to this man.
And because if MAC bumps up to a star level, think about, and that starts to catch on for trend. Think about what that's going to do to Smashbox, Bobbi Brown, even Too Faced, Miss Neutrals, Miss Regular. Think about what it's going to do to Clinique. Think about what it's going to do to Estee Lauder, even other brands in their cash cow category.
Well,
all of their other brands are Miss Neutral vanilla.
But I will even argue I would position it as, have this colorful makeup over here, but I know not everybody's into this. So if you still want to have your neutrals too, and you don't want to wear all the color, come to Clinique, come to Estee Lauder, come to Tom Ford for your luxury. But at MAC, be who you were.
Yes.
Stick to your brand identity, that it was for every single person. There was every color accessible.
Yes.
And now it feels like we are just narrowing the options down to fit into these other categories, where have brands. If you are the parent company, I want a brand that does one thing very well for everyone.
Absolutely.
And if MAC is the daring cosmetic line that I have, fine. I have my loyalty with Clinique. I have my loyalty with Estee Lauder.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
But why are we not pushing boundaries like MAC always has?
I know. Because now it's in this weird juggling act where the more successful something, if you got 20 kids and there's only so much food on the table, and you start to embolden one of your kids to eat a little bit more, it's going to take food out of another one's mouth.
Well,
and that's where they fuck themselves. I know. And that's where they really fucked themselves in 2010s, buying up all of those fad hit brands. And it's created an environment at Estee Lauder where it has paralyzed them to not be able to make any moves, where honestly, at this point, I feel it, which is what we talked about on that episode, the only choice to make is to start trimming the fat, because they need to get rid of these other brands to save money to be able to start playing around again. It's like a board game that they're backed into a corner.
And I can only imagine the conversations at Estee of, they probably don't want to keep brands that are failing.
No.
Why would they want that?
No.
So it's interesting. Even like a brand like Glam Glow.
Yes.
It's not sold in stores anymore that I've seen.
Why is it even?
It's not when I feel like when it exits a big retailer like Sephora, I feel like it was at Nordstrom as well. And I'm almost curious to see, next time I'm in a department store, I'm going to go look for these brands.
Yep.
And it's just amazing to see, like, why are they still holding on to them?
I know. This was it, y'all. How fascinating was this?
I want to go shop at MAC.
I know. I kind of let us know if you leaned to even the one we're doing. I don't know if it's coming out before or after, but the one we're going to film after this. I don't know. I had an idea the other day where I wanted to lean more into, I don't know, I guess less product reviewy, and we'll still obviously do all that shit, purchase fast, et cetera. But I wanted, I don't know, just deep dives into these brands, and not in a fucking drama way of, I wanted to do it from a standpoint of like, okay, who was she? Who would play her? And how did we get to this point? And how did we get here? And then us be able to unleash our, 12, 13 years as makeup artists, our knowledge put it even things in perspective to us about what it means for where they are now. And I just loved every second of this. I thought it was so fascinating. So let us know your guys' thoughts, man, whether you like episodes like this, what your relationship is with MAC, what you think they should do based on all this information. And this was super fun. Thank you so much for watching a new episode of Beautiful Unbothered. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for your video episode one day early on Sundays. And subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for your streaming episode on Monday. Also go over to Patreon. 9 months worth of a year probably worth of content. Literally, we just celebrate anniversary over there. So if you're bored, that's like going over to a whole streaming service. And we'll see you next week, wherever you are. We hope you are happy, safe, and healthy. And remember,
you are beautiful.
Bye, guys.
Bye.